Hello, and here are the solutions to the case paper May 2003. Okay, so question 1 is about fractions here. If you write out the question, you'll see that you can actually simplify both fractions into 5 and 1/5, add them together 5 and 1/5. In part 2, before you do any flipping and timesing, you need to make them into improper fractions first. So 1 and 2/7 becomes 9/7, 1 and 3/4 becomes 7/4, and then you can flip the second fraction and change it into multiplication. Times the top, 9 4s are 36, 7 7s are 49. But remember, when you're multiplying and dividing, you've got to make them into improper fractions first. Part C, you've got the square root of these two fractions, their product. So first of all, again, make it into an improper fraction, 9/7. Then you can multiply the top and the bottom, so you get 36/49. When you find the square root of a fraction, it can be thought of as the square root of the numerator and the square root of the denominator, which then when you find them, you get 6/7. Question 2, if you write it out carefully, make sure you copy it down correctly and collect like terms, you get 2a plus 2b plus 2c plus 2d. So some easy marks there, so take care, make sure you get it right. In the second part, write out what each letter is worth. Substitute in, make sure you show full working out for this stage. Then when you collect your the values here, you get 222 plus 2d is 2222. Subtract 222 from both sides, you get 2d is 2000, so d equals 1000. You need to show your working out for that one. You cannot just go straight to the answer that d is 1000. So make sure you show full working out. Also notice my equal signs go down the page. I haven't used more than one equal sign per line. Okay, question 3 is all about percentage increase and decrease. Make sure you show your working out clearly. Make sure that anyone who's marking it knows what you're doing and what you're doing in each step. So first of all, we need to increase the chalk ice's number by 20%. So that is 20,000 plus 20% of 20,000, which is 4,000. And the sum of that means they sell 24, and they expect to sell 24,000 chalk ices. The new price, you add 25%, which is 25p. So they sold for £1.25. To find the money they expect to make, you multiply them. If you think of £1.25 as 1 1/4, it makes it a bit easier. And you work out they expect to make £30,000 from chalk ices. However, the weather goes off, so they throw 25% away. So if you take away 25% of 24,000, that means they actually sell 18,000 chalk ices. For £1 each, they sell them for £18,000. Now, read this bit really carefully. A couple of times. It says, what is the percentage they've lost of the expected amount? So the percentage lost is the expected amount, 30,000, take away 18,000. That will give you the loss that they've made. And then it's a fraction over 30,000, because it's what they expect to make it into a percentage times by 100. Work it out, 12,000 over 30,000. Which you can then simplify, do a bit of cancelling, and it ends up being a 40% loss on what they expected. But it's very clear what I'm doing in each step, and you can just go tick, 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 tick for each step of that way. Question 4 is about transformations. Draw your graph carefully, make sure you label X and Y, go all the way up to the required numbers that they suggest. and draw your triangle T here and this correct spot here. Now for each reflection, draw your line. I've done this one dotted to make it distinct from the axes. Label each line and then do your reflection A, and then be careful because I made a mistake here. I reflected T, but you reflect A onto B, which is over here in the line y equals minus x. For the enlargement, it's about the origin, which is 0, 0. Draw your lines out through each vertex of the triangle, and then make sure that you enlarge it scale factor 2, so E ends up being here. When you translate E to F, just 3 to the left, 1 down. Just make sure you count carefully on that one. Right, so to get from T to B, it is a 90-degree clockwise turn, and to work out where it is about, you look at the right angle here between the vertices, so this bottom left and top left, and then where that right angle would be is 1 minus 1. So that's your centre of rotation, 1 minus 1. But for T to F, it's a scale factor 2 because things have got 2 times longer. The centre of enlargement, if you followed the lines back through, they would cross at 3, 1. So 3, 1 is the centre of enlargement there. Make sure you label everything clearly, make sure you've got a sharp pencil, and of course using a ruler. Question 5 is a bit of a funny one, but just be really careful with your arithmetic in this one. Make sure you don't make any mistakes at all. You can see here D1, D2 and D3. So the D3 is the constant one there. And then when you follow it up, add 4 on, add 28 on, add 119, and then your next term would be 387. So be really careful with your adding and subtracting on that one. Lots of marks there. For part B, if you find D1, D2 and D3, so do all the differences, and you'll spot that these two are 6, which means the difference, the third difference, should be 6 every time. So if I made that one 6, the difference here would be 6, so that should be 38. And then that should be 101, then that should be 137, and then to check it, to make sure, if you follow it through this way, that ends up being a difference of 6, which means that one is definitely the wrong one, so 149 should be 137. But you had to do all the differences there to get to that stage. Right, question 6 starts off with some show that questions. Whenever it's a show that question, try and start with a formula or a general rule that you can go from. In this case, I've started that volume is width times depth times height. From my little diagram here, you can see that 21, which is the volume we're given, is x times h, which is 21 is hx squared. If you divide both sides by x squared, you get h equals 21 over x squared. For the surface area, it's the area of all the sides, not including the top, so be careful about that. Don't make the mistake I did when I said there was a top. It's an open box. So you've got x squared, which is the base, and then the 4 sides round the outside. So x squared plus 4hx. Now that doesn't look like anything you're meant to show that it looks like. So if you go back to part 1, where you've got h is 21 over x squared, you can substitute in, instead of h, for 21 over x squared. When you do that, they cancel, so you're left with y equals x squared plus 84 over x. In the next part of the question, fill in the table very carefully. Again, take care of your arithmetic here. If needs be, just do a little bit of work on the side. Make sure you get these 4 columns all right for the 4 marks. Draw the diagram using the scale they required. so labelling as well. Plot your points, and it should make a nice curve. If it doesn't make a nice curve, it means that something's gone wrong up here. So you must make sure that you've plotted them nice curve. Label your graph, and then you'll see that here's the surface area of 40, and this bit here is when the surface area is less than 40. So for y is less than 40, x takes approximately between 2.4 and 4.75, or similar, depending on how close to mine your curve actually is. Okay, question 7 is a great one. It's all about trinominos and tetranominos. So the only one you need to get is the little L-shaped one, depending on the rotation you've drawn it. The other tetranominos are the straight one, the square one, this one, the little jinky one, and then the T one as well. And they've obviously already given you that one, so don't do any rotations of that. The ones that you can use to fill in a 12 by 12 grid, obviously the straight ones and then the square ones will make one. But also this one, they can fit together to make a 4 by 4 block, which will then fill up a 12 by 12 block. And also these ones fit in to make a 4 by 4 block. Obviously when you do this, you should use a ruler, of course. Question 8 is all about translations. The three ways of getting to 2-1 are AAB, ABA, BAA, and then make sure you get all 6 ways of getting to 2-2. Now I always start with, you know, what starts with A, and then do the ones that start with B, or the ones with 2 A's and 2 B's. Make sure you get all of them. Part 2. This is a good one for listing out all the possibilities. And all the possibilities with 2 movements are these 4 here. So 4 possibilities of a combination of A and B. Only 2 of them end up at 1-1, so the probability is a half. For the 4 movements, I've done all the possibilities that start with A. Now there'll be the same number of possibilities starting with B. So I didn't need to write them all out, I just said, well, if these are all the ones starting with A, there'll be the same number starting with B, which meant there's 16 in total. You could write them all out. And then the probability that it finishes at 2-2 is 6. We've already done that bit up here. 6 over 16, and must make sure you simplify it to 3/8. Right, question 9 is about speed and distance here. I've used a little subscript here to show it's a new speed. So A new is 18 divided by 6, which is 3. B is 2 times 18 divided by 3, which is 12 centimetres per second. Now, for part 2, B hit C at 6 centimetres per second. So if you plug that into the, that should be 12 centimetres per second. If you plug that into the formula, it's 2 times 12 over 3, which then shows 8 centimetres per second. And then when C hits D, the C new speed is 1 1/3, use fractions here. And D is 5 1/3, again, use a fraction for that one. Now part 4 is a tricky one at the end. So the distance that A travels, so we're looking at, first of all, from A to B, it's 18 centimetres, so that's a nice easy bit. But then we have the distance from while B is going to C, and also the distance from when C goes to D. So we've got to work out the time it takes B to get to C, and the time it takes C to get to D, and use that to work out at 3 centimetres per second how far A would go. So we've got 18 plus 3 times 1 1/2, because it takes B 1 1/2 seconds to reach C, and then 3 times 2 1/4, and that's the time it takes C to hit D. Work it out using fractions and you end up that A has gone 29¼ centimetres. Look at the marks. The red ticks indicate where you might get a mark for working. It's really important you do show all the steps so that any examiner or marker can look through the steps you're following in the stages. I'd recommend that having watched this video now, you go and have another go and then see how well you can do.